Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and happy to have with me Trey McCall, the head baseball coach and associate something at Emory Henry College. He associate everything from an administrative perspective, and Trey's been with us for a long time in the ODAC and a wonderful story related to baseball. And Trey, I guess one, thanks for being with us, and two, talk a little bit about how much joy you find in having baseball back. If it's back yet, we're still certainly dealing with some bumps along the road.
Well, thank you for having me. It is good to watch baseball again. I'm sure all the sports feel the same way. You know, I'm optimistic that they will get this done. You know, with the Marlins, what happened, I think they're starting to see that maybe there was some outside interaction going on. You know, but it's like everything, whether it's college athletics, the ODAC, Major League Baseball, I think people have really spent a lot of time trying to prepare for competition. It's we all go back to human behavior, though. It doesn't always mesh. And but I think Major League Baseball will weather this to some degree. And you know, the worst thing that could happen now is them to shut it down again. I think that would be horrific. But it's just nice to turn on the TV and see a game. Although I have really enjoyed watching games from back in my
I
childhood.
agree. I agree
It brought
with you.
back some good memories.
Yeah, I watched a '79 World Series game the other day, and
Okay.
it was fantastic to kind of watch those guys. You know, I was 9 years old at the time, but remember the game and remember those games and those players very vividly, certainly from those days.
Yeah.
So let's dial it back a little bit. Let's go. Let's still go '79, even though you might be able to recall '79 and how you did in baseball in '79. But let's go back to '85, which is a very unique situation for you, playing high school baseball in the Abingdon area, and then being drafted in the Major League Draft in the 1985 draft as the 16th pick overall by the Philadelphia Phillies. Are the Phillies your favorite team, or how does that work out for you?
It was simply business. I grew up where I live. I mean, you're really in Cincinnati Reds territory.
Okay.
You used, as a kid, I can tell you that I listened to my radio to Barney Brenneman, Joe Nuxall, virtually every night.
Wow.
On WLW, and listened to the Reds. Johnny Bench was my idol growing up, so I was a Reds fan as a kid.
So you had a Reds fan. You were a catcher. Johnny Bench was your idol. How do you end up in a situation where you're drafted 16th in the first round? I mean, what the heck happened with that?
I'm still asking that question, but I think my junior year I was very fortunate. We actually had a really good team. We lost in the state finals to Parkview Sterling 6-4. But we had a really good team. I had some good players ahead of me, Jeff Necessary, for example. And so scouts I got to play in front of scouts probably from the benefit of being a younger guy with some older guys who were getting, whether college coaches were there or professional scouts. So by the time I got to my senior year, I'm not saying I was used to it, but I had seen it.
When you think about how that's changed since then, right? How much different is it now? Obviously, you're coaching the Division III level. You came back to college. We'll talk a little bit about that briefly. But how's the scouting world and kind of exposure changed in your mind?
Well, I'm fortunate that the guy who actually signed me is still in the business, so I try to talk to him every so often. One of our assistants at Emory, T.C. Calhoun, he left, I'm thinking in 2011, did some odd jobs trying to get in, and he's the scout for the St. Louis Cardinals. He does Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, West Virginia. So I get to talk to him, and then for a few years, we had a volunteer pitching coach by the name of Mark Dewey, and Mark pitched in the big leagues, and he also, until recently, he was the pitching coordinator for the minor leagues with the Milwaukee Brewers. So it's interesting getting to talk to those guys. Without a doubt, technology is what's changed scouting. And if you talk to them, I think there's a real battle in Major League Baseball right now. You got the technology group, you got the old school baseball group. I think you've seen even some teams do away with their scouting departments, believing that the technology is all they need. And I think this year, though we didn't get to witness it, this was going to be probably the last year of the Appalachian League here.
That's right.
They're going to do away with some lower level teams. I do believe, and this is my humble opinion, I believe over the next 5 to 10 years, hopefully you'll see the merging of the two again. Technology is good. It's great to get feedback and information, but, I don't know the exact percentage, but if there's 100 Major League Baseball players, I still believe the majority are there, not only because they're good, but because they're really good mentally.
Yeah.
And they have a big heart, and they can compete.
Yeah.
And there's no technology out there to measure that yet, and I don't think there ever will be.
Well, so let's go back to '85, and you get picked 16th in that draft. Were you that guy? Were you the competitor? Were you that mental guy that was out there to get it done? And talk to me a little bit about that experience and your career in the minor leagues.
Well, as far as the draft, I got to give credit to my high school coach, John Cusco. My high school life wasn't the greatest. My mother passed away when I was a freshman. My dad, my junior year, actually the only game he saw after having his leg amputated that spring was our state championship game. So the power of a coach, I believe in, because I probably could have gone a lot of directions in my life. I don't think I would have got to where I wouldn't have gotten the opportunities I got if it weren't for people like him. On the flip side of the coin, I hope that I was mentally tough because I watched my dad. He ended up having both legs amputated. He continued to work.
Sure.
I've seen him fall downstairs when his temporary leg broke, and put on some pants and clean himself up and go to work on crutches.
Yeah.
I mean,
amazing
so
stuff.
as far as me coming home and being able to boo-hoo it all, that was out the door. And I do remember a game specifically. It was we played a team out of Kingsport, Tennessee. Had two really good pitchers. They dominated us that night, my senior year. But I just remember I think it was a Boston scout at that time. You're sort of disappointed you didn't do more in front of scouts. But the guy said something that night that stuck with me. He said, we tell a lot by what you do on the field, but honestly, I watch what you do off the field, how you handle yourself.
Sure.
So I do think that by Coach Cusco, by my father, that I was very beneficial come draft day. Not that I was a perfect human being and didn't get mad or anything like that, but I think handling yourself on the field goes a long way with scouts.
So if you had to go back and reflect on one of the two lessons that you learned, obviously being tough was something that you learned when you were growing up. Certainly your family and those situations. I'm sorry that your dad went through that, but it certainly helped mold who you are, I'm sure. What lessons did you learn in the big leagues? What did you leave with when all that was said and done, and you're heading back to Emory Henry to go to school? What did you leave with?
Well, my first lesson was the first night I was there. I got on a plane. I was 17, and got off the plane in Bend, Oregon. The greatest thing about that was I wasn't coming home. I mean, you're there. That first night in the first inter squad, I remember that. I think the guy's name was Bob Nazabal. We called him Chief. He struck me out the first time that I faced him. And I just remember going back to the dugout and thinking, this guy is a nobody who signed for just the plane ticket, and he's from junior college in California. And I think that's the one thing about baseball that's different than basketball and football is once you get out into the landscape, there's a lot of good baseball players. And that first night, I realized it real quick. The best player on that team was probably Ron Jones, who made it to the big leagues pretty quick, had some injuries, didn't get to stay, but, he was from a little JUCO in Texas.
Right.
So the first thing you learn is that, especially coming from a small town, small area, is that I believe that you're either humble or you're getting ready to be humbled. So I was very humbled that night. The other thing is I was fortunate. I had my roommate that I lived with. I had one from West Virginia, so he talked like I did. But that was good.
There wasn't a dialect issue there,
no
was it?
problem there.
Yeah.
But our other roommate had just graduated from Stanford, had just played in the World Series, College World Series,
Wow.
won the Pac-10 Triple Crown. His name was Rick Lundblade. I think that really helped me.
Yeah.
Having someone that's 22 and you're 17 and you're living with them, that really helped early on. And, but at the same time, I think after you get there and you stay there, you realize that with baseball, it doesn't matter where you're from, especially as you add the Latin American players.
Sure, yeah.
It's very humbling, but at the same time, it's just, everybody puts their pants on the same way, no matter where you're
from. What was the Latin influence in the game during that time? Was it significant? Was Spanish was an important language for you to know? It's certainly in the minor leagues, I would think.
Well, I did take Spanish in high school for 3 years. They didn't sound like the lady on the record player. You learn quickly how to communicate. And, the thing with a Latin player, and I say this in a shameful way, we in America, we don't treat our opportunities the same way they do. I mean, it did not matter. They were having fun, and they played hard. And I think that's one thing I do miss is being around guys like that who just, they love to be on that field, and it's fun to be around them.
We're going to take a minute for a short breakout for our sponsor, Farm Bureau Insurance, and we'll be right back with Coach McCall.
With over 100 local offices, Virginia Farm Bureau agents are part of your community. If you want insurance from a company that knows you, get to know us.
Trey, we're back, and let's transition to Division III coaching. Right? You come back to Emory Henry, you get your degree, and you're ready to embark on the rest of your life, and you pick college coaching, which you didn't get too far away from the game, which is fortunate, I think, for certainly all your players and those of us who know you. But what's the best and worst part of coaching in Division III? So give me the worst part first. We'll end with the best.
Well, that's always easy, and I think if you ask any other coach in the ODAC, I think we would all like to have more time with our athletes. And the environment of which we coach in now, we're actually doing less than kids are doing before they get to us. I understand. I'm fully behind the student athlete model and all that stuff, but I do think the players would like to be on the field a little bit more. And whether that's in the fall, I'm not advocating having a 100-game schedule or anything like that. I just think they do want to be on the field a little bit more. And I think as a coach, it would help if we could do that. So that's my one drawback with Division III. As far as coaching, I don't find a difference between any level that you coach. Honestly, it's just I've been fortunate to work for Mike Roberts in the Cape Cod League a few summers. They do the same stupid stuff we do. They do the same stupid stuff that you did as a high school coach.
Right.
So coaching to me, being in Division III, it still comes down to one thing, and that's about your players, your relationships with them. Just like I feel toward Coach Cusco, I hope our guys leave here with some type of compass guiding them in life. And then, I hope they invite me to their wedding one day. And I hope when they come back to homecoming 10 years later that they remember who I was. And I guarantee it won't be my baseball coaching. It'll be what I did for them during those 4 years at Emory. So to me, Division III is great, but I think any level you coach on, if you're in it for the people you're working with, then you will be successful.
Well, it's been a tough couple months, and wanted to ask you that question about how are you coping with this? How are your student athletes coping with this, and how are you interacting with them? This has been a challenge for all of us, and we're not in the same fortuitous situation as Major League Baseball to be able to be playing right now.
Right.
And we've delayed things into the spring from the conference perspective, and hopefully we're going to be able to do that. What are your thoughts, and how are you reaching out to your team, and what's the reaction been?
Well, being an older guy, my guys probably definitely get more text than they do Zoom meetings. Though I think Zoom sort of loses its effectiveness after a while. I mean, we're human beings. We want to see each other. I mean, we want to be able to interact. But I think a lot of kids are doing well right now. How this fall plays out, of course, I think is going to be big for every college. But I still believe in the human spirit. I think we're more resilient than we think we are, no matter what gets thrown your way. But it's just something that life's not fair sometimes, and I think we've all been put in that bucket this time around, where our worlds have been changed, and I just believe we'll be back. I just hope it's sooner rather than later.
Well, I hope I'd like a glass of your optimism at times. It's great stuff. What are you hearing from your kids? What are you hearing from the student athletes?
Well, being baseball, a lot of them actually go home and play in the summer. I think you're seeing sort of a 50-50 split on that right now. Some are getting to play, some are not getting to play. But even at our school, and I think it's like all the others, I think they're just dying to come back to school. And to me, that's the one thing that I think rings true throughout the whole team. Is they want to come back, and whatever form or fashion we'll have to see, but they just want to get back to coming to school, because if you think about it, that's one of the beautiful things about college is they have high school friends that are real good friends. There's just something about your college friends, and especially if you're on a sports team. I mean, they really become your brothers, your sisters. You spend so much time with them, and I think they really miss that.
Well, it's a great 4 years, 5 years, maybe 6 years if you choose to take that long. But it's a memorable time for all of us, and those of us who have had a chance to do it certainly have benefited from it. Coach, thanks for taking a few minutes and chatting with us, and kind of with this focus on baseball. I thought it was important that we reach out to our resident celebrity, because you are
right.
You are the guy. There's no question about that.
Well, thank you for having me, Brad.